welcome to this video on the long-term effects of RSV. First, let me introduce myself. My name is Lieke de Frankrijker and I'm a pediatric infectious disease specialist working at the Wilhelmina Children's Hospital in Utrecht, the Netherlands. I did a PhD on the interaction between RSV and bacteria in cystic fibrosis patients. But other than working as a doctor, I am also a mother. These are my twins, Seth and Jonas. They were born prematurely, but now at the age of 6.5, they're almost as tall as I am. Like I said, we'll talk about the long-term symptoms of RSV because we know that after an RSV infection, many patients can experience health issues. What do we know about this? We know that there is a greater risk of recurrent wheezing in young children, preschoolers. We also know from recent research that there is a greater risk of getting asthma. And finally, studies have shown that there is an impaired lung function in school-aged children after they've had an RSV infection. But what is asthma that we talked about? Asthma is one of the most important non-infectious diseases worldwide, and around 385 million people have asthma. And most people that get asthma get it before the age of 8 years, so 80% of them will have it at a young age. What is asthma exactly? It is a clinical syndrome, so that means it is a set of symptoms that come in episodes. But what happens in asthma? What happens is that the airways will become inflamed and obstructed. So with that I mean that the airways will become more narrow. It's also important to realize that part of the obstruction is reversible. So if you use medications, inhalers, you can for a large part reverse the obstruction. So where does RSV fit in? We know that RSV is a risk factor for asthma, and research has shown that there is an association between severe RSV infection and asthma. And from a very recent study, it was found that having an RSV infection during infancy, so as a young baby, is indeed associated with an important increase in asthma risk. So how does this association between RSV and asthma work? Research has shown that genes play a role. They play a role in susceptibility to RSV and asthma. So we found that genes were associated with the severity of an RSV infection and also genes that were associated with getting asthma. But there were no genes that were found to be associated with the risk of developing an RSV infection. And then there was a study that looked into babies who were born 4 months before the RSV seasonal peak, and they found that there was a 30% increase in asthma risk, suggesting a causal link. So a lot of research is still ongoing on this subject, but I would like to briefly point out the Clarity project. Like I told you before, there is strong evidence that RSV infections can lead to asthma. And we also know that chronic respiratory diseases like asthma and COPD are a major and growing problem. And the Clarity project is a research project that addresses these two issues. The goal of Clarity is to find a link between RSV infections and chronic lung diseases, so that we know even more of the long-term consequences of an RSV infection. And with that, we've come to the end of this video. Thanks very much for your attention.